All right, let's talk about your assets. Now, to some people, we don't consider data an asset. But in an organization, there are a large number of assets, not necessarily data, but systems, people, reputation. These are all assets to the organization. Now, one of the biggest assets is our property. Now, those properties might be a hardware component, might be software, might be a system that allows us to make revenue. It might be a proprietary system that we've developed. But to the organization, this is an asset. Now, one of the hardest things about working out cybersecurity is you have to know what you're protecting. Because if you don't know what you're protecting, then there's a very good chance that something is going to happen that you have missed. So when it comes to identifying assets, as I said, include things like property, hardware, software, components, systems that you put in place. It includes people, okay? People are your CEO. What happens if he wins the lottery and goes out and does, literally comes in and says, I'm not playing anymore? It is information. So any type of information that we're collecting, generating, or requiring to actually come about, make our organization work better. And the last one is our reputation or our brand. Now, all of these assets need to be identified. Now, the reason why we need to identify is because we can then add a value to them. And the value component is an important part of identifying your assets. So your assets now have a price. We can now apply to that price how we're going to stop something happening. So we've identified the assets. Now we need to know what the risks are. So the risks to your people or your information or your systems or your property or your reputation, how do we actually work out what the risks are? And those risks are really important because it gives you the opportunity to work out what we're talking about. Now, in the old days, now I'm not talking old days, I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago, we used to have assets inside an organization. The organization was usually encased with walls, locks, video cameras, the whole bit. In addition to that, it was connected to the internet, and we had one point or a number of points where it was connected to the internet. Now, if I had to get to this data from the internet, I had to come through the firewall or I had to get someone to be phished in some way. Nowadays, try again, before I go further, this asset is our gold. It is the most important part of our business. Now, when we all moved to the cloud, we literally forgot the concept of this is our gold. So we've taken our gold and stuck it in a car park. Now, everybody can see what we've got. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can gain access to it, and it doesn't necessarily mean they know exactly what it is. But if my gold is my Slack system, is my Office 365, is my Google Apps, then I know that my gold is going to be there. Now, the problem with being in a car park is everybody can now see it. And it's now up to us to ascertain the risks to that piece of gold that's sitting in the car park and come up with solutions that actually allow us to build security around that system in a number of ways. Now, that can be technology. I can use technological solutions to reduce the risk. It could be people. I can train them. I can make them understand, or I can increase awareness. I can do education components, or it can be policies and procedures. Now, all three of those, it doesn't really matter which one or combination of which ones, start building up security, what we call security in depth. Once you have security in depth, it means if one system fails, there's a very good chance that the second system or the third system is not going to fail and give you an indication that something's happening. So because we have moved to the cloud, doesn't reduce our complexity. Actually, it increases our complexity. It doesn't, it makes it easier for the cyber criminals to work out where they're targeting and how they're going to target those systems. And because we're now in the cloud, we have reduced the number of security components around our terrestrial components. By doing that, it allows the cyber criminal to no longer just target us and this single IP address that is on the internet, but it now targets everything that's on the internet. And we have to be very aware that if they're targeting us, we have to increase our security components in proportion to what that capability is.